Hello, morning everyone. So thank you for joining us today. Just thought I'd just start with a little introduction, just in case none of you have heard from me before. So my name's Harry. I'm just obviously part of the onboarding team with Helm, and we just thought today we could just run through some benefits of the auto pick creation plugin, maybe some challenges that can be faced from this, but I also just want to run through start to finish how that works, how you can configure different profiles for different situations. So first of all, I'm just going to share my screen and just 1 second, guys. Let me just get that shared for you. Perfect. There we go. So, first of all, I just wanted to highlight the reasons why I feel like this auto pick creation. The auto pick creation tool is great for removing that manual task in the morning. So, if it becomes quite a time consuming thing, come into your system, creating your orders, things like that. But also, it just allows a bit more consistency as well. Some use cases I can think of, for example, that I've run through before with customers is if you've got items that are maybe a two-man job, heavier, bulkier items, things like that. Maybe you want to just create pick waves for them, maybe twice a day. But then for your things like clothing, apparel, things like that, you maybe want to create picks for that every hour, that sort of thing. Just ensures essentially that every morning those picks are created, the guys can get into the warehouse and they can just start doing those picks. I suppose, is there any questions for me before I jump into that? Or if not, I'm happy to just move on and just show you what that would look like. Of course, you feel free to raise your hand if you do have any questions. I'll probably wrap up towards the end of the meeting anyway, if there is anything that anyone wants to bring up after we've just gone through these together. Just let it, perfect. Okay, so just move on to the tool itself and how you can configure the profiles. So if we go into the auto pick creation plugin here, we can see you do get greeted with this profile setup page. Now, I just want to highlight actually, just in case anyone isn't aware, if you go into settings in your system, go into the plugin store, you'll see a list of all our plugins here, and you can simply go into the AutoPick creation plugin, install this and add that against your account. And then if it doesn't show up on the left-hand side, if you just give your page a refresh, then that should show up there for you. So as we were just going over the profile setup, so this is the profile setup page. As you can see, you do have the ability to create multiple profiles. Just coming back onto what I said before, this can be beneficial if you want to create pick lines, maybe for fragile items, bulky items, certain things like that. It's a way to automate that, but also you still don't lose that precision. So there's two main types of the profile that you can create. So if I just go into mine here, for example, so you have an order limit and a time restricted sort of threshold. So obviously the profile name would just be the relevant profile name. I would advise for this to be something that indicates what this pick profile is for. So maybe, as we were saying, if it's fragile, if it's bulky, that sort of thing. Let's close that one off. So order limit. So I'm just going to run over the profile for an order limit. Then I will follow up with how to set up the time restricted profile. So as I say, if you do have any questions, make sure just to jot that down, guys, and we can cover them together as well. So warehouse is obviously if you do have multiple warehouses, and then this is the pick profile specific for that warehouse. Now the run sequence does come into play if you do have multiple profiles, guys. So if you are looking at something where maybe you want to have a pick wave, that'll create your pick wave for just like your common picking, maybe top sellers, things like that. But then also you want a separate pick wave for those fragile items or those larger items that you feel like you want to do maybe twice a day, that sort of thing. Then the run sequence just indicates which out of all your pick profiles, which one's going to run first against the orders and vice versa. There is things you can do with tags as well. So you can also make the pick profile tag specific, which I will jump into as well, which is quite a nice feature to have definitely for those scenarios also. Now, if you are a 3PL client, then you can also make this client specific as well, just as a heads up. So you've got minimum, maximum, minimum, maximum. It is what it says on the tin there, guys. So essentially all this will mean is for your single picks and your multi-pick waves. And just for clarification, if you're not too aware of how that's working with digital picking, so when we create these picks, you'll have a single pick wave and a multi-pick wave. So your single pick wave It can either be one item line, one quantity, or it could be one item line, multiple quantity. There's a system setting that can indicate that, just as a heads up. Now for your multi-picks, obviously that will be multi-items in that pick. So your minimum orders is just what's your minimum for orders included in that pick wave? What's your maximum? This could be something like if you're picking on a trolley, for example, and you feel like you're probably not going to get realistically more than 10 orders on that trolley. So you don't want a situation where we've created a pick wave for someone in the warehouse maybe, and we've told them to go and pick 20 orders, and it's not realistic for them to be able to put that onto the trolley, for example. So that's why that's there. It's just like a little safety feature, I suppose. Now the picks tag addition, all this means is after the pick has been generated against those orders, it will add a tag into that pick. So then you can filter those tags in your picking section. Again, this is helpful if it's a pick profile for something specific, such as a bulky item or a fragile item or something like that. Now the order tag search, this just relates back to, again, if let's say you have an order rule that's tagging your orders as they come in. Now, if it's tagging these orders such as for a specific pick wave where you want to separate it out of your standard pick waves, then you can just ensure that when it is generating these picks, it's only looking at orders that have that tag. Now the collection and the failed status. So this will relate back to on your dashboard. So obviously my dashboard's a bit messy, guys, so apologies for that. But essentially all you're saying here is, okay, when orders come into this status, so I'm going to say dispatch ready in my example, just so I can show you, that's the status as eligible for then picks to be created off the back of these orders. Now the failed status, by default, I've just done on hold. Now a failed status could be because it's tried to create the pick and you don't have the stock to fulfill that order. Therefore, we couldn't create a pick, so we've just flagged that across into the failed status for you to then obviously go in, accordingly work that out, and then if you're happy, you could maybe put that back into dispatch ready status and then let the pick tool just run again and create that pick for it. Now, of course, you can specify your pick wave options. So for your singles, do you want this to be an order by order pick wave, bulk, or bulk and sort? Now, obviously, for the guys that are doing terminal sorting, things like that would be bulk. For anyone that's using Box Manager, then that would be bulk and sort. And then if you're just picking order by order, then that would just be order by order. Now, for your multi-picks, it's the same sort of scenario here, but then you have the addition of tote picks as well for your multi-picks. So this is a way that you can specify those specifics when we're creating these picks for you guys. Now, as I mentioned, there is two types of a pick wave. So that's the order limit. Is there any questions, guys, on the order limit and how that works? No? Okay, guys, no problem. So if we just jump into the time restricted type. So if you do enable the time restricted, you will get the additional option here. So everything else that I've gone over, guys, is the same, barring this bottom part here, which then allows you to exclude days and highlight the work hours. So just to break that down, obviously the excluded days is just days where you do not want this auto pick profile to try and create those picks for you. So i.e. if you're just doing Sundays or not Saturdays, let's say if I don't want Saturday in there, I can take that one out. So I'm just saying here that no one's going to be there on Sunday, so I don't want any picks to be created. That's all that is essentially. Now the work hours per day, you can highlight multiple options. Essentially, something to keep in mind, all this means is at that time that you specified here, the auto pick profile will run, then we'll create the picks off the back of that, right? So maybe you would do maybe a pick every hour, every half an hour, or as I've said, guys, with the bulkier stuff, maybe you'll have a pick profile for that runs maybe every 4 hours, 2 hours, but then for your standard picking, maybe you would have that just running for every hour. Something to keep in mind, if I was to say here, for example, the guys in the warehouse, I know they're going to be in by, let's say, 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. I'm just going to run with 7. So I want to maybe set my profile to start at 6:45 in the morning. So what that means is at 6:45, it'll create those picks that are eligible. And then when the guys come into the warehouse, they can just go straight to the PDAs, just start doing the digital picking. And I don't have to worry about creating the picks for them, making sure all the picks are correct, any batching errors, things like that. It just ensures that accuracy as well, essentially. Now, the time that you specify, it will also check 15 minutes after. So if I've done 6:45 here, so from 6:45 up until 7 in the morning, it will just be constantly creating those picks based on his thresholds above. So that's why I say maybe you just want to do this for every hour, for example. Of course, this is going to be tailored to your business and how you operate. For example, I did have a customer where sometimes they were in on the weekends to operate creation of the picks, things like that. So we set up an auto pick profile for the weekend, specified it on how he usually manually creates those picks, and then when the pickers and packers come in on the weekend, then it will just automatically create all those picks for them, and he doesn't have to worry about logging in remotely or something like that and creating those picks, but also he doesn't lose that accuracy as well. As I say, these are the two types: order limit, time restricted. Now, for example, so we have set up this profile here, guys, with the order limit. So I just wanted to show you the logs and what that looks like as well, just so you can see what that flow is like. So I'm just going to add a tag here for pick pack. Sorry, apologies there. Auto pick plugin. So I want to add that into there, which is perfect. There we go. So I'm just going to go on to, sorry about this. There we go. Let's get a new tab open for me. Thank you. So we've set that profile to run. That's running off an order limit. So that's going to be currently looking at our dispatch ready orders. Now, if we can wait for that to run, and then that should run through for us, and then we can have a look at those picks as well together. So if I just check into here, so if I go back into my dashboard, perfect. So that profile that we set up there was looking at dispatch ready. If we say it's taking some into picking, I feel like a lot of them would have gone into on hold, to be honest with you, because I've got a lot of testing data on my system, so there probably wasn't stock for some of them. But if we now go to dispatch and picking, we can see we've got our picks that have been created here for the guys to pick up. Now, I did want to add one thing here, guys. Again, at the moment, if you want it to be specific, i.e. when the pick is created, for you to assign the relevant picker or packer for those orders. Again, maybe if you've got someone specific that is doing those bulk picks, or maybe someone that's got the forklift license, that sort of thing, to pick those items that are higher up. And then this is a way that you can be very specific with this. So it will create those picks for you, then you could assign those users. Now, if you wanted to fully automate that process instead, if I go into our settings here, we do have a pick setting that I just want to show you guys for unassigned users. So if you enable this setting here, what this would mean instead is that you don't even need to assign the pickers to the relevant pick waves. The system would just be showing them straight away on the PDAs. They would log into the PDAs, go into picks, and they'll all be there for them to pick through. Obviously, they'll be tagged with the single and the multi, so they know which one's the single pick waves, which one's the multi pick waves. That just provides that clarity as well. I did want to break down the logs just for troubleshooting, but also so you guys understand how to break that down as well. So if we go back into our creation tool, we can go into our logs here. So there will be a full history here of when that pick profile is running. As we can see here, a lot of them have gone to on hold, and that's simply because I don't have the stock, so they can't be allocated. Now, for the ones that can be put through, we can see into here, we can view the information, but this just gives you the visibility as well. Now, you'll see up here, it does have the order ID reference as well. So if you're wondering potentially why a pick wasn't created or what's going on with a certain order against this plugin, then you can just simply search up here that order ID, and then that'll just give you a full breakdown of all the logs that this profile's ran against it. But yeah, as I say, guys, it does give you that clarity. It's essentially a way to automate that process, but also you don't lose the accuracy as well, which I think is important. Now, I just wanted to loop back on some things that I did mention. For example, why this could be useful for your business. Essentially, if you're finding that in your day-to-day, that manual time that you're taking coming into the system, for example, if I wasn't running this plugin, I would have had to come into my system for those orders, go through the relevant order statuses that I want to create those picks from. I would have to highlight my orders and create those pick profiles. Now, because I have the automated pick profile, it just does that job for me. But at the same time, there's a lot of fields, as you guys saw, where you do have the ability to be very specific with this. So it's essentially automating that process, giving you that accuracy. Now, I did want to mention, because it's not something I brought up, these are just my basic statuses that I've used. But of course, in Helm, if we go into our settings, if we go into our status manager, we can see all of our statuses in the system that exist. And you can, of course, create your own statuses for this, which is why I say you can make this very specific. The main problem I've had with customers sometimes when it comes to pick creation is just essentially having that accuracy, pick waves being inconsistent. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to go in and create all these picks. So this just handles that for you. I suppose off the back of that, guys, is there anything I can help to clarify for you? Maybe you've just got some questions on the limits, the thresholds, how that would operate, or maybe you're having a problem at the moment with picking, and potentially if there's a way to implement this to help that. Just have a look, and if anyone wants to bring that up, please feel more than welcome to. Just want to make sure that no one's got any questions off the back of that, that's all. Okay, guys, no problem. I did actually have a few things that I did want to also just run through that may be something that is coming up in your day-to-day. There we go. So I'm sure if you guys are constantly getting orders coming in, especially coming up to these peak periods, things like that, and you're just finding it's overloading the team. Maybe if you're creating these pick waves, and for example, you've created one for like 100 orders, then one for 20, then one for 40, that sort of thing. Just having this does just ensure that there is consistency and make sure that the team gets rid of that stress on the team, but also just a human error in general that you can run into when creating picks manually. It just ensures that everything's being created as per your operations, essentially. But also the logs, I do think are great to have as well, just so you can get a full historic view there on when this is running through, how that's operating, which orders that's operating against. But yeah, I think personally, I do actually prefer the time restricted type. Now, that's just because I like the idea of just saying to this pick profile, everyone's in at 9. I want all my picks ready to go so everyone can just be on and get straight stuck in with doing their picks for the day. So I'll just do that for first thing in the morning. And then, as I said before, I usually would say every hour, but obviously it depends on the frequency of these orders that are coming into the system. But that's just my personal preference, is a time restricted. The order limit is, as I say, is essentially the same. It's just you don't have those time prompts, and it's just simply going off the minimum and maximums instead. Now, we are looking to have those pick tags also included on the PDAs. So if you are, for example, creating a pick wave for something that's a 2-man lift or a bulkier item, something like that, when it creates the pick, it can tag on their bulky item just to give the pickers and packers a heads up. And then when they're ready to do that pick, they can select that pick. But having that tag there will give them that visibility, because at the moment it'll just have the multi and the single, just to make you aware. So they can see what's a multi pick wave and a single pick wave. But yeah, has anyone got any questions for me on that? I'm going to assume silence will be a no. No problem. Let me have a...
You've got a question in the Q&A section there for you, Harry. It's from
perfect.
Edward.
Perfect. Thank you, Edward. Let's have a look. How do the waves look when picking? Good question. So obviously we went into our pick waves in here. So if I just jump back in for you guys into the picking. So pick waves look very similar in here, but as of visibility on the PDAs, obviously it depends on your profile, but if you're using our app for digital picking, if you go into the app, you'll go into picking and you will just simply have the multi and the single. So we can see here we've got the pick types. So the guys will be able to see if it's multi or a single pick wave, right? Now the digital picking process, if you've not run through that before, Edward, essentially on the PDAs, it'll load up the location where to go, load up the items where to pick, the quantity, that sort of thing. Again, it does depend on your type of pick wave that you're creating, because that can change that method. But as I say, they'll go into picks, they will see they've got a multi-pick set up there waiting, they'll see they've got a single picks, sat there waiting. Now, if you were, as I mentioned before, we are looking so that you can also have that pick tag edition where you could be even more specific with that. Tim, so you've got your hand up there, Tim. Then what websites tag section is missing from our auto creation on our system. So with the tag section, are you referring there to the addition of adding the pick tags, things like that, and the order tag search in particular? Because what it could be is, because I remember when we set that up with you, Tim, if you go back into settings and if you go into your plugin store, if you click on the auto pick creation app, just make sure that's updated, because you do have to update the plugin as well, guys, just as a heads up. So it is worth checking here every now and then, and you'll have a third option there for updating. And then once you've updated that, you should get that option there, Tim. Perfect. Thank you, Tim. But yeah, just on the back of that, Alex, I think we do have another webinar actually booked in for next week. 1 second, let me just go on to here. So we're just going to be jumping into, see what we're going to jump into next week, to do the custom dashboard. So next week, we're just going to be looking at the custom dashboard in Helm, how you can optimize that, how you can obviously customize that, but more in particular, some key points that you should link into there that would be helpful to see on that custom dashboard. Now, if I just go into here, show that up there. Yeah, no problem, Alex. But as I said, this is a great tool, especially if you are digitally picking. It's just a way to ensure that accuracy. As you can see, there is a lot of things you can specify in this plugin as well. Hopefully, my main goal of this as well, guys, is just if you are having these situations where you just need something to help automate that picking, but you're worried or not sure how to set this up because there is a few fields to specify. And I just want to make sure that you've got that confidence in, if I can do it this way, then I know it's only going to create my picks for like my bulky items, things like that. I know I did touch on the order tag search. So this essentially can run off the back of, if you've got your sales channel, obviously popping in them tags like from Shopify, things like that. But what I would say, if you want to be specific with it, if you go into obviously your system settings, you've got your order rules in here. So this is where you could create a rule for, such as if I said fragile items, maybe I've got a particular SKU that contains, so I could just go into my product SKUs, contains, maybe all my fragile items start with FR in the SKU, right? But the main thing I wanted to show you is update action, add tag, fragile items, or again, this would work with bulky items, just as a heads up. If I created this rule, obviously based off that condition here, it'd be adding that tag to my orders. And then what I can do then is off the back of that in my pick profile, that's where you can then go in and then I could just search for that tag. Obviously, if you've got multiple values, you can have the comma separated as well with no space. So there's a lot there you can do with that, guys. Royal Mail, absolutely. Yeah, so good question, Alex. So if you wanted to do it based off, obviously, shipping type, you would have to work with the order rules, right, of adding those tags and then working with the pick profiles for that tag search, essentially. Or if you wanted to on your dashboard, for example, so obviously I've got a lot of statuses. To be honest, a lot of it's just through testing and working through things with customers. But for example, I don't have a live order come through from my Shopify. But let's say if I was to go into my order rules again, you could create a rule for, like you said there, Alex, let's say you've got Royal Mail 4824 DPD next day. Perfect. So if I was going to make one maybe for Royal Mail, what I could do is I could have it based on tags. And to be honest, I'm just thinking of the most efficient way for you to do that, Alex. Essentially, what I was going to look at, Alex, is you could have an order rule, okay, that filters like if it's a DPD shipping method, if it's Royal Mail, that sort of thing. So on your dashboard itself, you've got separate statuses. And then what you would look at doing with the pick profile is just simply the collection status, right? So you'd have the collection status as Royal Mail or the collection status as DPD. So for example, just want to show you one thing in the rule again. Perfect. The other way to do it is simply, as I say, if I go into here, go back into my pick profile this way. Let's do it this way instead. So you would need to create a profile. What I would say, Alex, is you'd be looking at creating a profile setup for each of those carriers, for example. And then the main thing you'll be looking there is for the tags. The only thing is, obviously, you need to first have that order rule that's adding those tags based off certain amendments in that order, if you will. Are you doing digital picking at the moment, Alex? Perfect. Do you do what packing terminal do you use? Do you use the bulk and sort, or is it the pick pack terminal maybe? Let's have a look. Dispatch and packing. Ah, okay. It's definitely worth looking. It's good to know that because we do have multiple packing terminals. A lot of them, obviously, I'd need to know a bit more about how you set up that sort of thing and what would be the best for you. So at the moment, you just go into dispatch and packing. And then I assume what you'll be doing then is either scanning your reference or your item barcodes, that sort of thing, and just searching it through there instead. Fair enough. But yeah, what I would definitely look at, Alex, is you could look at having this plugin set up, and then you could look at basically having one for each carrier. The only thing I will say, Alex, is at the moment, the pick tags scan to. Ah, okay. Perfect. Yeah. The only thing I will say is the pick tags at the moment that's added off the back of this plugin. Currently, they're not showing on like the PDAs. So you'd see the pick tags, obviously, if I was to go into my picking logs here. Because obviously, if let's say you did set up a rule, such as for DPD, right, you'd have that DPD tag here. But at the moment, that DPD tag won't be visible on the PDA, but that's something we're looking towards to get sorted. So then the team can then just literally go onto their PDA, go into pigs. They would see multi DPD, single ROML, that sort of thing, just so they know which carrier that's going with. So I'd keep an eye out on our updates for that one, Alex, when it's available on the PDAs, and then I'd maybe look at implementing something like that because it'd definitely be useful. And also, guys, if you're not 100% on it, if you go to your dashboard and scroll down, no problem. You have this change log in the bottom. So if we go into this change log, just so you know, you can go into here, see all of our changes, everything like that. So this is where I was referring to if you want to keep an eye out. But yeah, it's a great way to just keep up to date with what we're doing. You can also sign up to our newsletter from this so you can get an email as well off the back of this when that's released. But is there any follow-up questions from that, guys? Obviously, I appreciate you coming in as well. I hope in some way that it's helped to highlight some things that maybe you weren't aware of with that or how to configure that. Yeah, I just want to make sure you guys understand that. I'll say I'll take no questions as a good thing, guys. Hopefully. All right, then. No problem. So if there's no other questions on that, guys, I'll probably just wrap this up shortly, if that's okay. Oh, see Tim's typing something. Let's have a look. Oh, thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, guys. I say next week we are going to jump into the custom dashboard. So potentially, if you've got a spare 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it may be, if you want to jump in there, maybe there's something we can help with there so you can set up your custom dashboard just so you can have a real insight, obviously, into your picking, your packing, and where your orders currently are, that sort of thing, really. Right. Again, thanks for joining, Alex. Thanks for joining, Tim. Thank you, Edward, as well. I think there's a few people that jumped in and jumped out, but again, we do appreciate it, and hopefully this is helpful for you guys. All right. See you later, guys.